Welcome to the Finance Committee. This is Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. It is 6:36, and I'd like to call the meeting to order and start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law GLC 30A Section 20. And on June 16, 2021, Governor Baker signed an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting is being recorded. Well, welcome everyone. We have here tonight Cindy, Gary, Hugh, Zach, and myself. So we don't have Bob McCarthy, Buzzy, Tracy, or Lawrence tonight, but we do have a quorum, so we can proceed ahead. The first item that we have on tonight's agenda was to do any committee updates or liaison reports, if anybody has anything to share there.
I have a couple things. Unfortunately, both of my finance committee, or two of my finance committee assignments, I have meetings this week. So there is a meeting of the long-term building committee tomorrow, and the newly reformed campground development committee on Friday. Which is going to be held actually at the campground. So we'll see what that's going to entail. So I don't necessarily have an update from that since the last time we met. However, I would like to report that, I have been, and so has Buzzy, and I have Buzzy's permission to disclose his name in this. Buzzy and I have been participating in a weekly meeting, almost every week, meeting of some other town citizens who at this point, I guess, are going to remain nameless until we come up with a plan or some public disclosure. Anyway, regarding the override. So you may or may not be aware that this group has been meeting to address the validity of an override, to look at it from a point of view outside of, and it includes people on the inside, if you will, but to also include people on the outside from a perception standpoint, as well as from a viability standpoint of having an override, and whether or not it's warranted, how it may be perceived, how it could be sold, and if in fact it's necessary. Bay Coast Bank actually contributed funds to pay for an independent appraisal, if you will, of the financing, of the financials, and a projection 5 years out of what types of funding could be needed. The person that did the actual feasibility study was, can't remember his first name. I think it might be Greg Kinsurf, who is the fellow who has been, is it Greg? I think it's Greg. Eric Kinsurf, right. Who had been the consultant that was brought in when we were having the treasurer issues, and has been used in town many times. So he was very familiar with the operations in town, with the financial situation in town, and has come up with some projections which were just recently submitted to the group, which I have not even had a chance to look at. But Buzzy and I both thought that it was time that we let the finance committee know that this has been going on kind of, I don't want to say behind the scenes. It's not a sanctioned group by any committee. I mean, we're not sworn members of any committee. This is just an ad hoc committee that was put together by some people to take a look at this, to see what what was it going to take to get an override if there needs to be a campaign, how that would be put together. As you're probably aware, this is kind of on hold until after the election on November the 6th to make sure that the Diamond vote clears one way or the other. So the outcome of the Diamond vote will be critical to any type of progress that may be made or any initiative that may be launched to get an override moving, and also to determine how much that number should be. So we've been looking at other towns, other successful overrides, what types of things have been done. So there've been a couple of communities that have actually passed an override with a larger sum under the guise that it's not all going to be used in the 1 year. So the cap is there, but they treat it more or less as a cap. So each year you can use funds towards that cap, and once the cap is reached, the cap is reached. Other towns have been successful if they use a specific project in mind. Operating budget overrides, you have to admit, are far and few between. I mean, there aren't that many that have been successful in doing that. But that's kind of the phase we're at right now, is looking at the campaigns that have been held to get some of these successful overrides and what the circumstances were to get it done. As we've talked about in previous meetings, electioneering is a problem. Buzzy, I'm glad you're here because I'm talking about the Wednesday group.
Oh, great. Good.
Yeah. So we've had to be careful about, what we can say, and we know going forward that will be a problem. So we're at the point right now that we're looking at some of the successful and unsuccessful campaigns that were launched to get some of these overrides passed. And we're also at a point trying to determine how much that override should be, if and when we get to a point where we feel that it's warranted to proceed with that. So I know that we have talked in past meetings, some of the frustrations that there's dead silence. Well, there's stuff going on behind the scenes. The Board of Selectmen are not necessarily aware of all of this that's going on. Like I said, this is not a sanctioned group. However, there are people involved that are the right people involved to make sure that if and when it does come to fruition, we'll have the right people in place to know what's going on.
Thanks, Cindy. I have a question for you. So is there a timetable of when the group will put some sort of recommendation together in terms of a report? And will the report be distributed to the select board as a recommendation, or will the group also come in front of the finance committee? What's the process for their next steps? Do you know that?
I think that's exactly the point we're at right now, is that this next meeting coming up, those are the exact issues that we've got to address. I think everyone has kept in mind that, by the end of the year, by the end of this calendar year, we should have a plan in place as to, what needs to be done. So that way, launching in 2023, we could get some type of a campaign off the ground if that's the way they choose to go. And who and when to bring other people under the tent, so to speak. That's exactly how we left off things at the last meeting, was that, okay, that's what we're going to talk about this next meeting. What's our plan now? We feel like we have the tools, but what's the plan as to how to use those tools, and who will be involved? Once again, being very conscious of this electioneering issue as to how committed people that have a position whether it be a committee position or an elected position, how involved they can be in some of that. So that's why we have outside people involved and some inside people involved. So everyone at least has an informed position as to which way they might want to go.
Okay, thank you.
Buzz, do you have anything to add to that? I mean,
the only thing I would add is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most important things that has been achieved is an extraordinarily cooperative relationship between the schools in the form of Tom Albin and the administration of the town in terms of Jim, who's been an important part of all the meetings, and three of us who are members of the finance committee. Most extraordinarily, I think, has been the extent to which the relationship has become very productive with Tom Albin. And Al Ease is the chair of the committee. I'm amazed at the extent to which he is capable of changing his mind about things. Don't you think, Cindy?
yeah. I mean, he has definitely, he's definitely singing a different tune about the attitude that the schools have had towards relationship building. And I will add that I have seen a change in that approach as well, that I think that there is a cooperative sense from the administration in this process.
Yep. And I think it shows in terms of progress we've made in terms of the two main goals. One is coming up with a number in terms of what we need by way of an override. I don't think there's any question at this point we do need an override. Although there's some consideration of thinking about some other things like getting more money from the state, which might make it less necessary to get an override, or at least reduce the amount of money. And then the other thing is strategies for trying to get the town to accept it.
Right. So that's where we are.
Thank you for the update. Does anyone have any questions? Hugh, Gary, Zach?
I think I just wait and see what happens.
Okay,
Right.
I'm all set.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Just
Is
a little bit of insight. We had a meeting with the DOR last week. It was last Thursday, and they usually brief the group on where the revenues look for the state, and they are way above. When I say way above, I'm talking like 20 to 30% above benchmark on all their revenues, on income tax, on sales tax, on every kind of revenue they're bringing in. They're way above that. So it remains to be seen, and I think we have to watch this carefully, how much of that money is going to come back to cities and towns. And I think not only do we have to maybe push our legislature to get their ear across to Boston, but I think that Schmidt and Roderick need to be on board. That if they know that the town's looking for an override, maybe they can mitigate some of that with more money coming back to cities and towns, because they are collecting way. When I tell you, when you see the numbers that are going to start coming out, it would be nice to see Chapter 70 and Chapter 90's money coming back to where it belongs, to local government.
Our group has met with both Representative Schmidt and Senator Rodericks. They participated in one of our meetings, and we have had a in-depth meeting regarding the Chapter 70 money, the school aid money, with the Department of Revenue to determine why, for example, the town of Westport receives far less money than, say, Somerset does, given the same number of students, and we receive far less.
Well, Cindy, I think Somerset's easy. They lost Montauk. So there's a whole now. They had,
Well, it's
had an is for
it's
you.
also,
But you lost Montauk, so that's
right,
could be
right.
transitional, if that's the answer. But in all this, I'm very good to hear and so forth, and yet the state wants more money. Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of our socioeconomic issues kind of work against us. Our land value is much higher than Somerset, although our per capita income is a little bit less than Somerset. They're a little bit closer to Providence, a little bit more high-paying jobs than there are here. But our land values kind of throw us into a different tier, that the land value per capita is high, and so the formulas are crazy. I mean, you could make a living out of just trying to decipher how what they call the money follows the student, and this whole issue about how we inherit students from that come with a big price tag, and how is it that we're not getting full freight for that, and it's very, very complex. But we have certainly gotten Senator Roderick's ear. He's been essential in being able to secure some funding for the schools for some special technology equipment, as well as some other things. So we've gotten their attention. I think Karen's graph from last year showing the diminishing returns in the state aid to a town like Westport, and how it's impacted us. Although we have rising expenses, and the flat out returns that we get from the state are going, had been going lower and lower. I think that was a revelation to him. I mean, he is chair of I believe he's chair Ways and Means, the State House. Yeah. So, it's very helpful to have someone like that, to have his ear to address those issues.
I hope for the best, but I think if the formula deals too much with land, we're all familiar with the expression of land poor.
Yeah.
And that's exactly Westport's got lots of valuable land, which does nothing to pay the bills. I mean,
Exactly.
It generates tax revenue, but
Exactly.
that's part of it.
Exactly. So it doesn't do us any good at all, because we all face that cap, and regardless of what the values are, all it does is bring our rate down, which we know is one of the lowest in the state, and we get penalized for that a little bit. So as Buzzy said, there's the override route, and there's also the route to try to get a way for us to secure more funding. That's going to take some time. But the best time to do that is when the state is feeling flush. So we'll see.
But that's the Holy Grail. We hope for the best
Yeah.
of luck.
Yeah.
Well, it's encouraging that the state's, up 20+% from their benchmark. It's far better than them being down 20
Down 20%.
from their benchmark. So that
Right.
leaves an
Like it
optimism,
was in 08. Like it was in 08. Right.
leaves some optimism that there's potential for more to come our way. But thank you, Buzzy and Cindy, for being the dedicated weekly meetings. I appreciate your doing it. I started doing it, but I had work commitments that took over, and so I left it in your very capable hands. And thank you for continuing on. Does anyone else have any other committee updates or liaison updates that they wanted to talk about? The one committee that we have is the infrastructure committee, which Bob had been appointed to. And since Bob may be on a leave of an unknown time with us, I had requested for someone else to take over that appointment, and I believe Lawrence might be taking that over. I think he attended a meeting, their last meeting, and I would have loved to have got an update from him tonight, but he was not able to be here. He's traveling for work, so I think he might be taking on that committee, so which is important. Some of the things that, when we had a previous update last month from the previous liaison, I think some things I found out afterwards, because I watched the meeting myself, is that it's looking as though the committee is looking to have a warrant article on the next town meeting in May to spend some dollar amount of funds for the advancement of the water and sewer. So it's very important that some representative on the finance committee be active on that committee and, continue to provide objective information to the finance committee and of what's going on, because I think we're going to potentially see a warrant article. So I think that's important.
Karen, I wouldn't write Bob off. I mean, you're doing the right thing of finding out someone else who might be interested, but Bob is, my experience was not a traumatic break, but I was out of the hospital in 2 days and around with the walker on this and that. So by a month, which say the next month's meeting, you may find Bob is functional. So fine to explore, but I wouldn't be so sure that he won't be able to do something I know he's interested in.
Okay, well, no, that would be, it would be great for Bob if he was ready to come back. He himself thought it was a good idea to find a replacement for him. So I didn't do this without, confirming with Bob. So he thought it was
And I'm not
proceed. So
saying
well,
that
welcome you back.
he may be healing faster than you think because they throw you out of the hospital sort of the day after. Now, as I say, he had a traumatic break and he's in rehab. It takes longer, but still, in a month, he may be surprisingly well off.
I hope he surprises us all. But thank you for the update. And if no other committee updates, we can go on to the next item on the agenda. Okay, next item. The next item is really, here we are, fiscal 24 budget schedule. So at this meeting last year, we put some pen to paper and kind of sketched out our schedule for December, January, February in terms of budget dates. And then I went ahead and sent out emails to all the department heads to get them to get their dates scheduled. That was very effective. And I'd like to do that again this year. And we can get them scheduled. They won't be coming in till December or January, but we've got them penciled in, so we're not scrambling for trying to get people to come in. As you recall, our last meeting last year, we had an early February meeting, and that was the school. So I would suggest that we do that again. Tracy's not here, so I can't communicate that with her tonight, but I would expect she'd watch this meeting and get that information that she needs to get since she's not here. But so I'd like to do that again. So I have a draft I can email out to everyone, a draft of what I was thinking of for our meetings, but they would start, I can kind of look at it really quick online. So the meetings would start in December. So December 6th and December 13th is my suggestion. And then we kick it into gear in January. So we'd have weekly meetings in January. So January 3rd, January 10th, January 17th, and January 24th. Then we'd skip a week, which would be the 31st. And then we'd be back on February 7th, and that would probably be the date of the school. And then that should conclude our department meetings for the round of the fiscal 24. And then we'd be at the position there to have all the departments done, and we'd be waiting for the select board to finalize the budget to us, and then that would give us some time to think through some of the scenarios. But again, as we did last year, this was very effective because we got into early February and the budget was substantially complete, at least our department reviews. We had a lot of work to do on numbers, high level numbers. But then that gave us time to really start to focus on the warrant articles. And so then we could spend February and March working on the warrant articles. So I'll be happy to send this out. I don't know if anyone has any comments on the dates or times?
I've been looking as you've been talking, Cindy, and I'm the December 13th, have a prior commitment.
Okay,
Honor that evening.
sure, okay. The alternative, we can change the 13th to the 20th instead, and I just worry that we're getting close to the holidays there, that might be a difficult time. But I'll send the schedule out, and then if everyone can comment back. Does anyone else have any other issues at the moment that are of magnitude to with that?
Nope.
Okay,
Good over
great.
here.
Okay, so the goal that we do is once we get into the December, January time, we on our own schedules, we kind of pencil in there's potential that it could be a weekly meeting, and that would be on Tuesday. We do our best, other than the department meetings like this, to get them done. We do our best not to hold a weekly meeting, but it may be meetings every other week or as needed. But we try to ask everyone to just softly pencil in your Tuesday nights just in case, so we don't fall behind. But we do our best not to have weekly meetings too long. But with the exception of the 4 January in a row to get the budgets done, that should be really the bulk of it. So thank you. I will send that out to everyone to review. Let's see the next, any other comments on that at all? Nope. Okay. I think it worked quite well last year, so we were well ahead of ourselves. So I'd like us to do that again. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the minutes from September 13th that were distributed. If everyone's had a
I'm
chance.
sorry, Karen, I am going to go back to the previous point.
Oh, sure.
Did last year did we have a form that we sent to our department heads, or did that go out? Someone sent a form to the department head to ask them what date they wanted to come in?
Yep. So I put together a survey kind of thing where they could select their dates.
Right.
I emailed it out to everyone. So once we get the dates firm, I can do that again. And,
Oh, okay. All right. You're going to do that again.
Yep. So we
Okay.
can send out the dates, and then we may have to kind of rearrange a little bit if everybody selects the same date. Then we might have to move people
Right.
around a little bit, but it kind of worked out last time that it was relatively balanced.
Right. Because there's always the same group that likes to come in early and those that prefer to come in late,
Right.
and those that don't really care, it's not as important to them which date it
Right.
is. So hopefully that will all fall into place.
Right. And I think, last year, Susan Brayton, the treasurer, and the town accountant, and they kind of coordinated amongst themselves to bring the whole finance area in all at the same time, which was a great
Right.
idea to tackle that at once. So I would imagine Susan and Nicole, and maybe Theo will do that again, so we can get all the finance things done at the same meeting. So it's a nice way to do it.
So Karen, is there any sense on when Jim will have his budget message together before we go ahead and start meeting with departments? I think that's important.
Yep, I sent that out to everyone. So Jim put together his budget timeline.
The
Yep.
actual memo though, the actual message, like
The
stay with
actual-
it. Stay, like usually he'll write a memo saying, we got to just what the board of selectmen are envisioning. You stay within level funding, level budget. Isn't that usually sent out every year, or might be?
No, he sends that out. Let me look at his, he's got it all scheduled in his thing. So 1 second.
Because I'm thinking that would be important to go out before, just so the
Yeah.
departments are on the same.
I'm sure he will, because he's expecting to have them back by the end of October. So I'm guessing he's already got that going in process, but let me,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have his notice here. He has here, departmental requests submitted to the town administrator by October 28th. he has not provided necessarily guidelines as to, what limits there may be. October 31st to November 12th, meetings with town administrator and department heads. November 14th to the 18th, town administrator reviews and revises the departmental budgets. Department head meeting with town administrator department budgets being distributed and the overall budget discussed. That appears November 22nd. Follow-up meetings with individual department heads. Final town administrator recommended are distributed to department heads. That's December 5.
So he's sending
So
out,
if our
he's sending
first-
out a schedule. He's not sending out a message to the departments.
No, I'm sure he is. The schedule that we have, we don't have his memo, but
Oh,
I
okay.
believe he was gonna do just like he's done before, given the guidance of, to say, keep salaries to X% or don't.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what his guidance is, but I believe he will be providing guidance or already has provided guidance because he is looking to have them back by October 28th. So,
Right. So can we get a copy of that? Is there a way we can get a copy of that memo? Because usually we did in the past.
yep. So I'm sure we can. I believe they're discussing this very same thing at the select board meeting tonight. So my guess will be
Oh, okay.
it'll be distributed very soon.
Oh, okay. So it is being worked on, I guess. That's the
Yes.
that's the-
Yeah.
All right. And
No,
I don't know if Karen, if you know it, I don't see Nicole on the call here, but I see Susan. Do we have any idea about revenues? I mean, have been any revenue reports for the first quarter, or is that still too early? Maybe Susan can.
To my knowledge, I don't think we have anything yet. The first quarter just ended. I was out last week. I was not actually on vacation. So, but I don't think, though I do know Nicole's been trying to keep up with these things monthly.
Yeah, so we should probably, I guess in the near future, we'll see a revenue. We'll see what the revenue looks like, at least for the first quarter.
Right. Just to let you know, we did receive from Jim his capital request that went out to the department heads, and I'm anticipating probably this week the budget notifications.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Susan. Anybody else? Anything on that? Okay. Okay, so if nothing else, we'll go back to our next item, which was the minutes of, I lost my agenda. Let's see, the minutes of September 13th, 2022. They were distributed to everyone. If anybody has any questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to approve. If everyone's,
Second.
any discussions on the minutes? Okay, then I will do a roll call. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Cindy,
Sorry, aye.
Buzzy,
Aye.
and Karen Rouse, aye. Thank you. Okay, the next, I think we're ending our agenda here. So we should plan topics for next meeting, and our next meeting, we should plan on our scheduled meeting in November, which would be, one second, which would be November 8th would be our second Tuesday of the month. That would be our next scheduled meeting. So we should plan on that. And if there's any topics or anything that comes up in the meantime that you'd like to add to that, let me know. Otherwise, I'm sure we will be having more discussions about budgets and overrides as we get closer to everything. I have no correspondence from anybody, and I have no topics that are not reasonably estimated within 48 hours. So does anyone else have anything else that they want to talk about before I entertain a motion to adjourn? I see no's everywhere. So I'll attend, I'm open for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Short and sweet. Second.
Great. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Gary,
Yes.
Zach,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Buzzy,
Aye.
and Karen, aye. Thank you all. This was nice and short and sweet. Have a great night.